Frederick Seddon works in insurance. He's a nice man, a good provider for the family, and ever so slightly dull. His wife has a passion for true crime stories, but then they take in a lodger who keeps a mysterious box under her bed. Eventually their lodger becomes seriously ill and dies, leaving all her money to Fred. Was her death caused by cholera or something more sinister? The shocking tale of Margaret Seddon is next.
One of the most wonderful things about the natural world, for me, is its marvellous, intricate complexity.
David Attenborough brings the natural world to BBC Radio 4.
Examining a swarm of ants, their little bodies gleaming gold, and complete with the tiny hairs on their heads and minute glinting facets in their eyes, is wonder enough.
David Attenborough's Life Stories. Sunday mornings at 10 to 9 and on Friday evenings at 10 to 9.
Now on BBC Radio 4, our Saturday play, set during the scorchingly hot summer of 1911. This Edwardian murder story is based on true events.
I, Frederick, take thee, Margaret, to my wedded wife.
My wedding? What do I remember about my wedding? Good. Very good. And my suit was smart. I'd just sold a policy to the tailor. And one other thing, the most important, the oath we took. To love, cherish and obey. There's nothing more important in a man's life than oaths, promises, contracts. It's how the world judges you.
I, Margaret, take thee, Frederick, to my wedded husband.
My wedding? What do I remember? My dress, yes, and the church, full with very respectable people. His family, not mine. We was dead poor. And I remember my shoes. Gorgeous, white. And my young sister Beth, who promised me 5 bob as a wedding present, but instead buys shoes identical to mine. I hide 'em, so she has to hobble round the wedding in boots 2 sizes too large.
The Shocking Tale of Margaret Seddon by John Fletcher.
I was 16, 6 years younger than Fred, but I had to respect him. Every Friday he put proper money on the table.
Collector and canvasser for the London and Manchester Industrial Assurance Company, I was. Been with 'em since I left school.
Got to admire him. Never stopped working. We moved from Hackney to Dalston, then to Seven Sisters Road.
7 children we've had. 4 of them living. William, Margaret, Frederick and Ada, with another on the way.
And Fred was finally promoted to superintendent, which meant we had some real money. Enough to hire a part-time maid. I'm not complaining about Fred. It's great he never stops working for us. But he's a bit fixed. Never stops telling me about these calculations.
If the rate's 2 1/8, but the competition's presenting at 2 1/4, I can still beat 'em by offering at 2 3/8.
I gave up listening after a while.
Because my agency is operating out of my house. So without office overheads, I can offer a higher rate while getting a better return.
I was 32, Fred 38. We lived above this empty shop on the Seven Sisters Road. I'd always had real good taste in fashion. I suggested to Fred I open it as an emporium for women's clothing. Fred was always quite liberal in his views, supported the suffragettes and all that stuff, so he did his sums and calculations and...
The rent's really cheap. I fixed the backing. You're in business, girl.
Oh, Fred! Oh, Fred! But unfortunately...
Oh, Fred, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Unfortunately, things didn't go quite as I planned.
This is terrible, girl. These accounts.
I know, I just don't understand them.
Yeah, I can see. Stop crying, Mags. It's my fault.
Yours?
Allowing someone like you to run a business like this. Don't worry, girl. I'll go through the books, make sure nothing comes out.
So that was that. The shop was shut. But within months, Fred was doing so well, we moved into Islington. Well, Finsbury Park. Number 63 Tollington Park. 3 stories, entirely detached. And Fred with his 2 clerks doing his insurance business out the basement. We lived in the middle 2 floors, leaving an empty one up top. Fred was never one to let empty rooms go unrented. He did his calculations and...
Good morning. My name is Miss Barrow. These are my relations, the Hooks.
Ah, good morning, sir.
Morning. We saw your ad in the paper. Thought we'd come see your rooms.
I didn't like the look of them from the off. Had Irish boozer eyes. But Fred's a better judge of numbers than people, so... Soon as they was in, they was drinking and arguing. We couldn't get no sleep. Fred had to go up and give them all notice. We're respectable. More arguments, then Miss Barrow comes downstairs. She carries a large metal box.
Mr. Seddon, sir, I beg you, I'm a respectable woman.
But Miss Barrow...
It's my relations, the Hooks. Violent, disreputable people. They're threatening me.
We can't have this in my house.
I beg you, do not throw me out. Just them.
Fred?
Well...
Oh, and I ask one more thing.
Yes?
This metal box contains considerable sums of money. They'll steal it off me. I beg you, put it in your safe.
My safe? I have 2 safes. One for my business downstairs, one in my bedroom. But that would be improper.
Improper?
It might lead to all sorts of misunderstandings. I put it in my safe, then you later take it out, count it. You could accuse me of stealing some.
I'd never do that. Please, Mr. Seddon, I need somewhere I can...
Well, what we'd have to do is... I'd count the money in your presence. We'd both sign a piece of paper with a copy, agreeing how much money is inside.
Fred.
Margaret, we must act by the law. And I would, of course, charge a commission for this service.
No surprise, Miss Barrow, not wanting us to know how much money she got, took her box back upstairs, locked herself in her room. More shouting and swearing. Then the Hooks left. We slept all through the night. Next morning, Fred goes upstairs, talks to her. She says she wants to stay. He says she can if she pays the rent the 3 of them paid before. She agrees. As now she needs someone to skivvy for her, I suggest my eldest daughter Maggie at 10 bob a week. I wonder how much money she really got in that box. Over the next few weeks, we become really friendly. What a well-informed, intelligent woman. She reads novels, Dickens, the Daily Mail. Just one drawback, though. The booze. She's rather fond of the booze. You know, one of those drinkers bright as a light in the morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Seddon.
Good morning, Miss Barrow. Going out, doing this and that, chatting with friends in the street. Buys a tiny bottle of brandy for a few restorative sips in the afternoon. By tea, she wants more. But of course, a respectable woman such as herself could never be seen out on the streets purchasing alcohol in such a condition.
Maggie, dear, could you just pop down the shops and buy me some brandy?
Yes, Miss Barrow.
A large bottle of brandy? I'm not having no daughter of mine going out on the street buying alcohol. We're respectable. So I go out, buy it myself. She drinks it all. Wakes up next morning fresh as a daisy, not remembering nothing about last night.
Good morning, Mrs. Seddon.
Goes out all prim and proper for a parade in the park. The problems start with the money. It's 5 o'clock. She wants more booze. But the prim and proper lady of 9 o'clock this morning, who may have wanted the odd drop or 2 this afternoon, bears no relation to the thirsty boozer of early evening, and so she's not put no money aside for it. She has to go to that metal box of hers which she keeps under her bed. half hiding it from me as she digs out the cash.
It's in here somewhere. Oh.
There's usually enough change from the previous night, but one night she has to ask me to break a £5 note. Wants all of this kept quiet, of course. Asks me to go to shops a way off, cash it using a false signature. I do that. Give her the change. Too thirsty to count it, she pushes it straight back in the box, hurries me out the door. The next time she runs out of cash again, she presents me with another £5 note. Again, asks me to cash it the same way. I do it. Only this time I take a slight commission on the side. And when she gives me cash. Miss Barrow sober don't never seem to remember how free she is with her money when she's not sober. Fred ain't never told me everything he does in business, so I decided not to tell him everything I done. I mean, with that Seven Sisters business, I just happened to open my own private account under another name, and some of that money had found its way in there. So I done the same with Miss Barrow's money. I'm not saying Fred's mean, but a girl needs a bit of spending money. Reading Miss Barrow's old copies of the Daily Mail gives me all sorts of ideas. Fred? I've decided this house lacks tone.
Tone?
Yes. I'm clearing out all these old romances and murder mysteries I got. And in future, I'd rather you didn't smoke your pipe indoors.
Oh?
And instead, out of my housekeeping, I've ordered the complete novels of Sir Walter Scott. The Mail's doing an offer on them.
I need a few long bookshelves for them.
And I've purchased various pamphlets of a religious nature to display on the hall table.
Does this mean you'll be coming to chapel with me and the children next Sunday?
No, Fred. I'm not feeling very well, and I'm just a few weeks off my confinement. I need a rest from the family now and then. The reason I needed that Sunday morning rest was because earlier in the week, when Miss Barrow was getting her money out of the box, I just happened to glance over her shoulder. Got quite a bit in there. Time Miss Barrow and I had a bit of a chat about money. So that Sunday, I picked a few daffodils from the garden. Fred's a most industrious gardener, and went upstairs to see how she was.
I blame that Lloyd George. And that Winston Churchill, the Home Secretary who's always letting them murderers off without hanging them.
But why Lloyd George?
He's the Chancellor. All the taxes he's piling on people like me. He wants to beggar me.
Oh.
I've got money, see. Invested. And according to the Mail, he's introducing all these sneaky taxes to steal it from me.
So your money's in banks? Oh, sorry. Shouldn't be asking you these questions.
That's all right, Mrs. Seddon. I trust you. I trust your husband especially.
Fred?
Yes. When I asked him to put my money in his safe, he insisted we counted it so there'd be no disagreements. An honest man. Not like some of my relatives.
Relatives?
Those hooks. Oh. They're always after my money.
Oh. Anyhow, those banks...
Can't trust any of them. Always going bust. I've got some of my money in a fund, some of it in property.
Property's good. Fred always says that.
That's just it. It's a pub. The Buck's Head in Camden. And Lloyd George has brought in this tax against publicans.
Aren't there any advisors, sort of financial people you could go to?
I'd never trust them. Never trust anyone.
I think about this a while. I'd been hoping I'd be able to give her some of my advice, but there's no way I could kid her I knew anything about finance. But she does trust Fred. Well, you must go to someone. You sound in a terrible way.
I am.
How about my husband, Fred? Honest as the day is long. He knows money inside out.
Well...
Fred? She needs a financial advisor.
What?
She's very worried about her money.
Yes.
And I recommended you.
What? I couldn't do that. That would be quite wrong. She's living in my house. She needs an independent advisor. There's 3 or 4 up the Stroud Green Road.
He says it wouldn't be proper to advise you, you being a tenant and all.
You tell him I want him. This is the 2nd time he's turned down my money. I trust him.
Oh, Fred?
What is it, Gil? I've got a client in 5 minutes.
Miss Barrow.
Oh,
I've told her about her needing independent advice, but she just says she wants you to do it. She trusts you.
then tell her no.
Fred, she's a very good tenant. No problems, pays the rent of 3 people just for herself.
Yes?
We wouldn't want to lose her. Fred goes to see Miss Barrow. I sit in. She's got the pub, India stock, other annuities. Really quite a lot. And she don't even mention the money under her bed. Fred goes away, does his sums, consults his tables, comes back.
Miss Barrow, in our conversation you made it very plain to me you wished someone to take overall control of your finances.
I did.
And that person should be me.
Yes.
Very well. This is the annuity proposal I've drawn up for you. You wish to have an income of some £2.10 to £3 a week, paid by me to you, signed for by you.
I do.
This is what I propose. Sell your interests in the Bucks Head Public House and your £1,600 investment in 3.5% India stock and invest it in property. I shall buy 3 or 4 houses in Stepney. This would yield some £5 a week in rent, but taking from that the cost of your rent and payments to us for the services of my daughter Maggie and the cost of the commission I am charging you, that would leave you the £2.10 to £3 a week you require.
For how long?
For life.
Under your sole control.
Under my sole control.
What if you were to die, Mr. Seddon?
Well,
Does he look as though he's going to die, Miss Barrow?
He looks like a man in the prime of his life.
So she signed. Fred and I went downstairs. Fred?
Megs?
I got that business for you.
You did?
And you got a good commission out of it.
I got a just commission, Mags. 2%.
And when she dies, you'll inherit the remainder of her annuity?
We, the whole family, will benefit from it, Margaret. What is the point of all these questions?
Well, I was wondering, since I got the business for you, if I should get a commission too.
There's something going on here, Margaret.
Oh?
Have you already been engaging in financial dealings with Miss Barrow?
No, Fred, absolutely not. Whatever makes you think that?
Look, Mags, you know money's not your strongest point. I mean, look what happened at 7 Sisters Road. I'm not blaming you, love, but I could have gone to prison for those accounts.
Yes, Fred, of course. So that commission's off.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you an extra 2 bob in the housekeeping. I swore at the altar, Margaret, I'd love, cherish, support you, and that's what I'm going to do. Always.
I am so angry. I am so bloody angry. I stand on those stairs, just stare ahead of me. Stare ahead of me.
Hello, Mum.
Hello, Ada. Come on, girl. Snap out of it. Stick back on your mother's face. Get about your business. It's non-stop in 63 Tollington. Children running all around, the clerks Fred employs downstairs popping up for a sandwich, Maggie running up and down with cups of tea for Miss Barrow, I with my new baby, the 5th, and We get a brand new piano for our drawing room. And something else. Something marvellous. On May the 1st, the weather suddenly gets hot. Very hot, and does not change. It stays and it stays. I'd spent 2 months in confinement. Fred had brought in a temporary maid to help with the baby, so I thought I deserved a little time to myself. Took some money from my private account, took a cab to the West End, passed among the stores. There was so much. Full ostrich plumes, soft on your skin as down. Shantung silk dresses, flowing like gold. Then I walked into Liberty's. The swirl of colour made me all giddy. This beautiful lampshade hat of soft grey velvet with an exquisite scarlet poppy sewn on its side. I could wear that. Somewhere. Buy it. Take it home, hide it under the stairs. Weather gets even hotter. Things change even more. Fred's always gone out some nights to his chapel things, his Freemason things. So, right being right, I go out other nights to the flicks, the music hall.
And suppose it makes a bet, I don't worry over that. All the little what you fancy does.
I love Mary Lloyd. She's on at the Islington Grand, so afterwards I go round to the stage door. But before she comes out, this other bloke, shortish, comes up to me.
Look at you then.
Who are you?
I'm in the show. I saw you gawping at me from the stalls.
You're not in the show.
In the Dicky Donkey sketches. I'm the one who does all the pratfalls. Work with Charlie Chaplin all the time.
He's taut as a whippet. Anyhow, I'm not staying round here talking to no stage door Johnnies. I'm going home. Don't take a cab. Decide to walk. He follows me. I walk faster. He walks faster. Quite close he is to me, so I stop. Here! You're scaring me.
You're loving it.
No, I'm not. Kindly leave me alone.
Where you live?
I'm not telling you. I'm respectable.
I'll tell you what. I'll be in the Century Tea Rooms in Highbury Friday afternoon. See you there. I got an admirer. An admirer. I'm not going to get involved in none of that nonsense. But a cup of tea might be nice. All through June and July, Benny and I meet up in little tea houses. Once, I treat him to a slap-up meal. He tells me about his ambitions in music hall, trying to break into Fred Carno's troupe. But I'm still respectable. And all the time, the heat increases. Hottest summer ever. Flowers and grass die. Heat shimmers on the roads. Oh, we women suffer in the prisons of our corsets and stays and bloomers. Then Fred makes an announcement.
You shift your chair over. I'm going to tell you.
My lords, ladies and members of the Seddon family, I am pleased to announce that having entered negotiations with a Mrs Mabel Norris, I have managed to acquire rooms at her seaside residence. And, as a result, we will be spending the whole of next week on holiday in Southend.
I get a week's supply of brandy in for Miss Barrow, arrange for a woman to come in and cook and clean for her. Then, the seaside. Of the air, the wash of the sea. On the beach, there's a notice saying, female bathing dresses must be worn from the neck to the knees. I go for a swim in the soft, soapy sea. Underwater, I roll up my bathing dress as far as it'll go. Then I feel someone behind me. Benny. We press gently together as we float through the crowd of bathers, Fred playing cricket on the beach with the children. In the early evening, Fred's still playing on the beach with the children.
No, Will, we're at 117, not 116. That was a leg by.
I walk into town. Before we left London, I paid Benny enough money to get a train down here, rent a little room by the station. I go in. Despite all the scars and bruises he got on his body from his work, his muscles as tight as piano wires. I decide to take off some of my stays and petticoats. Then I take off more. After we'd done what we did, we talked. He told me about California, where they make the films, where all the English comedians, Chaplin, Fred Carno, Stan Laurel, are trying to get to make the big money. Where they got orchards of apricots, oranges, cherries, all hanging so low you can pick them just by reaching up. Where the sky's so blue, the climate's so warm, you don't hardly have to wear no clothes.
Come on, children, settle down. Come on, Will, tuck yourself in.
All too soon, the week was over. We returned to the filth and flies and dust of London. By now, the end of August, the heat's way up in the 90s. A thick smog covers everything. To make it worse, Miss Barrow's gone down with the diarrhoea. I reckon she's been drinking too much while we've been away. I'm feeding the baby when...
Mrs Seddon! Mrs Seddon!
She calls out yet again. Evening, Miss Barrow.
Oh.
The room stinks. It's filled with flies. How do you feel?
Terrible.
I think we'd better change your bed sheets again and get a doctor to see you first thing in the morning.
I don't want no doctor. Doctors is just nuisances, ordering you around, giving you horrible medicines.
Is there anything I can get you?
Oh, water. I got a terrible thirst. Oh.
She needs a doctor, Fred.
I'll get Dr. Swan in the morning. God, the house don't half whiff.
Mrs Seddon! Mrs Seddon!
There she goes again.
Oh, you must be worn out, what with her and the baby. I'll go.
No, Fred, I'll do it. But perhaps before he sees her, I'll say to Dr. Swan about putting her in hospital. Oh, she can be very difficult.
Oh, I don't like flypapers.
Miss Barrow, we must get rid of these flies. I've never seen so many in a patient's room.
Horrible, long, sticky things with little legs wriggling about all over them.
Well, there are those Mathers ones where you soak them in water, the flies drink the arsenic, then they fly away and die.
I'll buy some of those, Dr. Swan.
And I really think you should go into hospital, Miss Barrow.
I'm not going into hospital, that's flat.
But it's so much easier dealing with your problems.
You go into hospital and people start stealing things.
Yeah.
From right beneath your bed.
I think you should go into hospital.
If you force me into hospital, Mrs. Seddon, I'm not coming back here to stay. You understand me?
I do. We get 3 times the rent we'd get from anyone else. There's that annuity. All Fred's calculations would have been in vain. Then there's what I get from beneath her bed. I'm sorry about the flies, Dr. Swan. We was away till yesterday evening.
The flies are attracted by the stench.
What do you think she's got?
Epidemic diarrhea. English cholera, they call it. There's so much of it around at the moment. I see several cases every day.
You look really tired.
The heat wears me out. You don't think she'll go into hospital?
Oh, you saw how obstinate she is. What about her medicine?
I prescribe morphia for the pain and bismuth to stop the motions. It'll make her extremely thirsty, Mrs. Seddon, but you must not allow her much water.
What can I feed her?
Meat restoratives, like pudding.
I send Maggie down to the chemist to get the medicine and the Mather's fly killers. We soak the papers in saucers of water and leave them about the room. Then me and the maid set about cleaning Miss Barrow's room from ceiling to floor, scrubbing it, soaking it in disinfectant. By the evening, I am dog-tired. Fred takes one look at me.
You go out tonight, girl. Get away from it. You look whacked. I go to the Freemasons. Everyone thinks they're about people doing strange handshakes and dodgy deals. I do a bit of that. Drum up business, commissions, but that's not all. I always go into the temple alone. Think how God, the divine architect, is up there, drew up faultless the entire universe, which he has handed to us. How it's our duty to maintain, cherish it, help our families, our fellow humans.
The film's some stupid rubbish about people tying women to railway lines. But it was made in California. Amid the darkness of the cinema, a land of perpetual sunshine. All sorts of things is flying through my head. I know about murder. Since I was a kid, I read about it in Penny Dreadful's murder trials. And one fact I know. Hardly no one can tell the difference between British cholera and arsenic poisoning. And our Dr. Swan, an old man worn out by the heat, has already seen she got the cholera while we was away. She got money. If this happens now, that money's ours. Not mine, yet, but ours. I sit alone at home in the kitchen, baby on my breast. On the stove bubbles a saucepan. Coming back from the cinema in a hardware store where no one knew me, I drew down my veil. In this heat, I must be the only woman in London still wearing a veil, and bought 2 more packets of Mather's flypapers. They bubble in that saucepan. Benny's off on a 5-month tour of the continent. Good. Men haven't the stomach for stuff like this. I put down the sleeping child, drain off the liquid, pouring half into another saucepan, the other half into a bottle I cork and hide at the back of a cupboard. It usually takes 2 doses to do it. Put some Liebig's meat restorative in the first dose, put it back on the stove. Take the first saucepan, drop the boiled out flypapers in a neighbour's dustbin, pour the liquid into a cup, wash out the pans, put the baby to my breast once more, sit down. I don't know yet how this'll turn out, but I know it'll turn out right. Maggie?
Yes, Mum?
Take this drink up to Miss Barrow.
Right.
Course, she's terrible sick. I'm up and down the stairs all night. Want some more bacon, Fred?
No, I'm fine. You sure we shouldn't get her a nurse, Mags?
No, it would be a big expense.
You're right.
I don't mind doing the extra work. I know she's awkward, but I really like the old thing.
You're a saint, girl.
I'll call the doctor in again. I reckon she's taken a turn for the worse. You must think me mad, calling in Dr. Swan, but the symptoms have remained the same all through the night. So I think he'll again diagnose the cholera. There, Miss Barrow. You comfy now?
Move the pillow a bit, please.
There.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so lucky having Mrs. Seddon look after me, Doctor.
She looks most attentive.
Up and down all night she is.
Are you all right, Doctor?
Combination of your stairs and the heat, I'm afraid. Now, Miss Barrow, have you taken the medicine I prescribed?
Oh, it's chalky, Doctor. Makes me all thirsty. When I ask for water, Mrs. Seddon tells me you've said no.
Quite correct, Miss Barrow. How can your medicine be efficacious if it's weakened by a whole lot of water, eh?
But I'm thirsty.
Miss Barrow, I order you to take your medicine.
One more thing I do while the doctor's in the room. By mistake, knock over a saucer containing some arsenic flypapers.
Mrs. Seddon.
I knocked over this flypaper saucer by mistake, Doctor. I'll get another. After the doctor leaves, I get a soup plate, put in the flypapers I dropped, then the papers and water from the other 3. Put the plate with its water on the thirsty Miss Barrow's bedside table, just in case we need an alibi.
Oh, this house stinks. My clients have been complaining.
I've scrubbed the place twice, hung up carbolic sheets.
I know you've done everything you can, love. Baby all right?
She's fine, having a good long feed. What's the letter?
A letter from Emily.
Your sister?
Wants to come down from Wolverhampton with her kids. Spend a few days showing them London, seeing Dad.
Oh.
What do you think?
One advantage to breastfeeding. Men don't expect you to think fast. The place'll be chaos, people, kids. But is that bad? I mean, when everything's normal, people notice something unusual. But when everything's chaos... I expect I could manage.
You're an angel. Look at you, sat there, Mags, suckling our young Lily. Fills my soul with light, that does. Well, off to work.
Fred?
Mags?
Take that cup of tea up to Miss Barrow, would you?
Of course.
If I'm taking all these risks on behalf of the family, it's only right they share them with me. Something else I noticed since I started doing what I'm doing. The smell don't hardly bother me no more. Neither does the heat. I mean, I'm running up and down stairs all day and I scarcely feel tired. In fact, ain't never felt so alive in my life. The temperature reaches 99. Fred's sister, Emily, arrives with her children. Dr. Swan, coming in nearly every day, says he don't know whether Miss Barrow will live or die. Then, on the Saturday, something changes.
Oh, I'm dying. I want to write my will.
Miss Barrow, you're not dying.
Oh, I feel something within me. It worries me.
Yes?
I don't want to leave nothing to my relatives, the Hooks. They're horrible. But they have children. They deserve what I have left.
You're not dying.
Get me a will. Immediately. Or I'm leaving.
The last thing I need, a row, with all that stuff inside her. It could alert the authorities. Then I see the advantage.
If you want a will, you've got to use someone independent, a solicitor.
You could do it.
I can't. A landlord writing a tenant's will when he's already going to inherit a lot if she dies.
But she refuses to use a solicitor. You know what she's like. She trusts you.
No, it's wrong.
She goes on all through the night about it, though. She's threatening Fred, if she recovers, to take herself and all her money away.
My God, what a trying woman.
Oh, I'm tired out by it all. Couldn't you just write it out?
But Emily and I are about to take the whole family off to chapel, then a stroll in Finsbury Park.
Do it quickly. Your sister and your father could be witnesses.
Very well.
And a rush job it is. But it satisfies Miss Barrow. They go out. I sit and think. Can't afford another upset like that. If it's going to be done, it's got to be done fast. Like tonight. I put the baby down, get that bottle out the back of the cupboard, pour the rest into a quarter-full bottle of Miss Barrow's brandy. She's still drinking some, despite the doctor saying no. Next time I'll take her up some tea, when she's not looking, I'll slip it in her cupboard, wash out the other bottle and drop it in a neighbour's dustbin. Today's the hottest day of all. 100 degrees. Last night, Fred got into some argument about some change at the Flicks. They said they'd given him £50. He said 2 bob. Tonight he's gone back to speak to the manager. You know Fred, exact. So we all stand around in the garden. It's too hot in the house, waiting for him to come home. Suddenly...
I'm dying. Oh, I'm dying.
Oh, dear. It's her again.
Do you think she's all right, Mum?
She's been complaining all evening, Maggie.
I'll go up. You look really tired.
No, I'll go. I've already given Miss Barrow a nip from the brandy. She must keep us busy all night. I put a cold towel across her forehead.
Oh, I feel so terrible. Terrible.
You'll be all right. Fred's back. I hurry downstairs again. At the front door, I become all weary once more. Everyone must see me tired.
So I said to him the ticket girl wasn't counting proper. It was £50. But, my God, Mags, you look worn out, girl.
Oh, I'll be all right.
Here she's giving you trouble again, crying out she's dying.
Oh, you know Miss Barrow.
Bedtime for you. Come on, everyone. Time for bed.
I feed the baby a final time. We go to bed. But not for long.
Mrs Seddon! Mrs Seddon!
No, I'll go. You stay here. Try and sleep.
Oh, Fred, thank you. Probably just wants a cold towel. He goes up, she calms down. He comes down. 10 minutes later, she calls out. He goes up. This happens 3 or 4 times. By 3 in the morning, even I'm getting tired.
Mrs Seddon! Mrs Seddon!
Strike a light.
No, Fred, this time I'll go.
But your dog tired.
So are you. You've got your audit tomorrow. I'll go.
No.
Yes.
All right. I'll come up with you. Look after you.
As I knew he would. I get up there. Her sheets are terrible. I'll change them while he stays out in the hall because of the stink. There. All clean and comfortable. Fred comes back in. Miss Barrow looks at him.
I want brandy.
Brandy?
Get her some, Fred.
But it's 3 in the morning. How am I going to buy brandy now?
She's got a little bit in a bottle in that cupboard. Pour it out for her. It'll settle her.
All right, then.
And he does it. Pours it out. Holds the glass while she drinks it. After that, she does settle down.
Looks like it's done the trick.
Yes.
Even started snoring. You get down in your chair, get some shut-eye. I'll watch her from here.
Tell you the truth, a little bit of sleep wouldn't do me no harm. Need my wits about me come morning. I snuggle down, Miss Barrow snores, and Fred keeps watch on a chair by the door, smoking his pipe to hide the stink. I sleep for 2-3 hours, then...
Oh, my God. Margaret! Margaret! I fell asleep on my chair. She's stopped breathing.
What?
I think she's dead.
I take one look. She's gone. Fred turns white.
I'll get Dr. Swan. Poor soul.
Fred rushes off. Nearly 6 o'clock. Get some more sleep.
Here she is, Doctor.
Everything happens very quickly.
Yes, she's dead, all right. Epidemic diarrhea. I'll write you out the death certificate.
Fred, in between opening her metal box to discover how much money she got for her funeral, not as much as I'd thought, rushing off to the undertaker's to organise her funeral, the undertaker advised it be done as quick as possible because of the state of the body, and writing to her relatives, the Hooks, to inform them of her death and the time and place of the funeral, was also rushing up and downstairs trying to finish his audit in time for his insurance company. I just lay on my bed with the baby and rested. For the first time in weeks. Something else. That day, the temperature dropped. Right back to normal. We all started to put our old clothes back on.
A man that is born of a woman hath but a short time to live, and is full of misery. He cometh up, and is cut down like a flower.
The funeral was a quiet thing in an ordinary grave. I had a little cry. Miss Barrow and I had been through quite a lot together. As we expected, no sign of the relatives. The house was fumigated, cleaned out. We got back to our normal life. Until...
Mr. Seddon?
Mr. Hook?
I come to see you. About our Liz.
The Hooks had turned up again. Not very friendly. Fred ushered them into the drawing room.
Now, we hear our Liz has died, being buried up Kensal Rise in some pauper's grave.
Oh, it wasn't that at all.
When there's a family vault up at Highgate Cemetery.
She never told me that.
And you didn't even tell us. Though we're flesh and blood, she'd gone and died.
I wrote to you.
You didn't?
I most certainly did. I wrote you a letter.
No, you didn't. We didn't never get nothing. Our kid heard on the street she was dead. First we heard of it.
Well, I'm very sorry, but I wrote you a letter.
You never.
I wrote.
And another thing. What's happened to all her money?
What do you mean? There's a will, which is in the hands of solicitors. Various of her nieces and nephews are left sums of money.
No, not that. That's nothing. I'm talking about the big amounts. In that metal box, in that pub she owned. Where's that?
I inherited that.
What?
She wanted an annuity agreement drawn up. So that's what I did.
Oh, very convenient for you. And now she's dead.
What are you saying? If you want to check up on these perfectly legal proceedings, you are completely at liberty to speak with a solicitor and enter legal proceedings to view these documents.
Oh, I'm not going to no solicitor. This whole thing stinks. I'm going to the police.
And he did. 2 weeks later, they disinterred Miss Barrow's body. Found traces of arsenic.
Arsenic? How did she get arsenic in her?
I don't know, Fred. All I can think of is that saucer of flypapers by her bed. Maybe she got thirsty and drank that.
Yes.
2 weeks later, Fred was arrested.
This is outrageous. You can't take me from my family. They need me. My youngest girl's only a year old. I'm a family man.
5 days later, they arrested me. On the 4th of March 1912, Fred and I went on trial at the Old Bailey for the murder of Eliza Barrow. What I should say, how I should behave, I'd thought about very hard. My life hung on it. The first difficulty was Fred. We'd not seen each other since our arrest. He'd found out in his police interviews I'd been cashing Miss Barrow's banknotes using false names.
What did you think you were doing?
She was a boozer, Fred. A secret boozer. She wanted the whole thing kept quiet.
Did you steal any money from her?
No, Fred, of course not.
Sure?
Yes.
I'm sorry to doubt you. This is some mess we find ourselves in, girl.
Oh, Fred, it is. I present myself as very submissive, the obedient wife. Even before the judge enters, I see the jury, all men, watch me.
How do I handle this? Me, my wife, entirely innocent, on trial for our lives. There is only one way. By being completely honest, answering each question directly, completely.
Mr. Seddon, did you like Miss Barrow?
Did I like Miss Barrow?
Yes, that is the question.
Well, I'd not say she was a woman you could be in love with, no.
A totally honest answer. But not the sort you give in the dock at the Old Bailey. I move away from him just a fraction.
Tell me, Mr. Seddon, after the death of Miss Barrow, you approached an undertaker, a Mr. Nodes of 78 Stroud Green Road,
yes,
and asked for an inexpensive funeral.
The cash Miss Barrow had...
A £4 funeral.
The funeral would include a coffin, polished, with handles and an inside lining, the necessary bearers and a vicar.
Yet, while you were at the deathbed and Mr. Nodes was measuring the body, I believe you started to haggle over the price.
I did not haggle. I'm a business person. I made the perfectly respectable suggestion I'd take a commission for putting work his way.
Of £0.50?
Perfectly normal business practice. I've frequently put business their way, for clients who'd just suffered unfortunate deaths.
Indeed. So, you haggled him down to £3.17 and 6.
I did not haggle.
Who gained the £0.50? You or the estate of Miss Barrow?
I did. I'd earned the commission by conducting the transaction.
The more straightforward Fred becomes, the more minutely I move myself away from him. My eyes avoid him. I catch looks of sympathy, understanding from the middle-aged gentlemen of the jury.
So, Mr. Seddon, having already fixed up by yourself, without any outside checks, an annuity of which you alone are the beneficiary...
I've already explained that.
You now, with the poor and unfortunate Miss Barrow on her very deathbed, hurriedly forced through a will, without any solicitor present...
As I said, it was she insisted I immediately draw up her will upon the weekend, when no solicitors were available.
Are you seriously suggesting that a woman on the verge of death from arsenic poisoning in your house suddenly decides she wants to draw up a will without any independent legal representation?
Miss Barrow hated solicitors.
Oh, how convenient for you. You, the man who, as she was lying stricken on her bed, when, as we have already heard, she cried out, "I am dying," gave her to drink from the poisoned bottle of brandy.
As I've already said, we have no way of knowing it was poisoned. It was thrown away.
Again. How convenient. And then, as she lay dying, your wife, worn out from weeks of tending her, sleeping in an armchair...
Even the Attorney-General seems to have forgotten I too am charged.
You callous, shameless man, sat there in the doorway, nonchalantly smoking your pipe, waiting for the poor wretch to die.
This is outrageous. You are painting me as some sort of greedy, degenerate monster, committing the lowest crimes, when all I am is a decent human husband trying desperately through hard work and thrift to raise a respectable family. That is all I am. Before God.
I stare right down at my feet. After a shocked silence in the court, the prosecutor resumes his questions. Even Fred starts to notice the fact that I am distancing myself from him.
Why are you looking away from me? Not backing me up? Oh, I see.
Fred?
No, you're right. To distance yourself from me. One of us must survive. To look after the family. Make sure the kids are raised proper. You're doing the right thing, girl. Tell as many lies as you want. Look as disgusted as you can. I'm right behind you.
And after that, it was, as they say, plain sailing. Even the judge started fussing about my well-being before the trial was over. A foregone conclusion. Fred was to swing, I walk free. I came home. Spent a lot of time in my bedroom, mourning. 1/3 people signed a petition to reprieve his hanging. Mercifully, the Home Secretary took no notice.
Come along. It's across the yard.
Oh, my God. Is that it?
That's her, yes.
Oh, God above, divine architect of the universe, accept me, a sinner, into your arms. Have mercy on me, my family, on all humanity.
Come along, up these steps. Stand there.
Lucky thing, eh? Me being in the insurance game.
Just putting this rope around your neck.
Then I got the best policy ever for myself, the missus, and the family. They won't never want.
Next morning, I go for a walk in my garden. The daffodils are out again, so I pick a few, return to my bedroom. I take off my clothes. I put on the beautiful grey lampshade hat I bought at Liberty's. Walk around. A few days later, Benny gets back from his European tour. We don't meet at once, for form's sake. But 4 months later, we is wed. Thanks to Fred's insurance and Miss Barrow's annuity, we, the whole family, is very well off. 2 months later, we all moved to California. Sometimes, you have to make these sacrifices in order to move on.
In The Shocking Tale of Margaret Seddon, Margaret was played by Lynne Seymour, Fred by Bertie Carvel, and Miss Barrow by Annette Badland. Dr. Swan and the Hangman, Dorien Thomas. Robert Hooke and the Attorney General, Dick Bradnum. Benny and the Vicar, Brendan Charleson. Maggie was played by Anwen Carlisle.